Well, welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Financially Free Journey podcast. And I'm your host, Courtney Dyer. And today I'm bringing on a guest. This is actually a repeat guest. You guys loved the first episode so much with Amira Alvarez. And just to remind you guys, she is just amazing. She's the founder and the CEO of The Unstoppable Woman, which is a global coaching company. And she's helping rising stars in all fields really achieve their goals and dream faster and bigger than they ever believed possible. So Amira, welcome back to the show today.
Thank you so much for having me. Round two. I'm super excited, Courtney. This is going to be great.
Exactly. You know, it was good last time when I get tons of emails and people said, hey, you know what? We really enjoyed that. So we're going to do a second round here. And last time we were talking a lot about explosive income, really increasing income. And there's a lot of actionable steps. And guys, if you didn't listen to round one, make sure that you pause and go back and listen to that, because this is really going to stepstone nicely off of that. But today I really wanted to start with talking about really, Amira, how can the listeners grow sales through honest conversations? What does that look like exactly?
Absolutely. So I will tell you that this was one of the key attributes, the key things that I mastered and to some degree had a unconscious competency with, but then had to hone through study and execution and practice when I was making my own big quantum leap years ago, going from 138,000 to 700K in 1 year, right? Like that was my big 5 times my income in 1 year as a solo entrepreneur. How do you do that without, selling fish oil, right? Like what does that look like as a woman who wants to be a good human in this world and really do the right thing, right? So Absolutely. part of it was really learning. I mean, there's so many different elements to this, but I want to pull out a few of the top pieces. One piece was really owning your value. So many people don't own the value of what they do for others in this world, what problem they solve. They work at a surface level versus at the deeper level of what truly gets to happen and what's that worth. And we don't give ourselves enough credit. So one of the first things that I did was really get clear about what kind of value am I providing for people if they actually do the work as part of the coaching that we do. And when I saw that, I realized that, to not be too flip about it, but quite frankly, it was priceless, because when you learn how to get out of your own way and start executing, you start being the woman that you really want to be. Not only do you make the money, there's a financial reward, whether that's, getting to 6 figures or getting to your first 7 figures or making multiple 7 figures, whatever level you're working at, there's a huge financial reward for that. And that's small compared to what I'm charging and talking to in a sales conversation. But even beyond that, Courtney, if I help people do that, they have to go through a journey that causes them to step up to being the woman they always knew themselves to be, but haven't yet been executing on. They haven't fully actualized their potential, and they know that, and that causes a huge amount of emotional distress. And so if we can solve that issue, which I do, that's a huge value. Now, enough about me in my world. What about you in your world, the listener? You too have the same framework. On the one hand, you help people solve that first level problem, whatever it is. Okay, whether you're a photographer, a real estate agent, an architect, an interior designer, a coach, a lawyer. I work with a ton of lawyers, right? Like, you solve a problem for someone and there's a first level problem. But what gets to happen for them if that happens, what gets to happen for them? And that's the bigger problem that you're solving. And you have to go 3 or 4 layers deep. So that's step number 1, really claim that value first, because then when you're having a conversation with someone, a sales conversation, you're coming from a place of confidence. You're coming from a place of, hey, guess what? I can do this for you. And that's a more powerful position. It's a more confident position. It's a position that makes your potential client, sit up and listen and go, wow, this person is providing so much here. And I will pause for a moment in just a second, but this is called the impression of increase. But in order to impress upon your potential client that you can help them increase their life, you have to first own your value. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. And I'm sitting here visualizing, and it sounds like, really, if you don't speak to a deeper level of solve with your potential client, you see this a lot where people say, well, they're scared to charge more. They're scared to ask for that full price that they really have in their mind as their goal because they're afraid of that rejection of people saying no. And it sounds like to me, Amira, that because if you're speaking just to that surface level, that first layer solve, and you're not speaking to a deeper level that connects to the real need underneath, then yeah, you might, that's where that rejection or that being scared of charging more may come into play. Because if people see that you're solving a deeper need, not just a Band-Aid, they're more apt to say yes because they see the true value that you bring.
Correct. There is also this concept that you really need to understand, and it connects completely to what you brought up, which is that fear of rejection. So many of us, and I would count myself as part of this, didn't want to, past tense, didn't want to make outreach calls, didn't want to talk to people about what I did because I didn't want to impose on them. I didn't want to take up time. I didn't want to ultimately be rejected and have them say no. And this we have to go back further. We can't just say, use willpower. That's part of it. You have to just do it at some point. Okay. Once you understand the intellectual premise here, you do actually have to start doing it. But with some coaching around it, it makes it a lot easier. So the concept here is that when you were younger, you asked your parents, who were your gods at that time, right? They provided everything. They put a roof over your head, fed you, gave you love. You knew you were going to survive because they provided for you. Even if that relationship was rocky at times or even abusive at times, they were the people through which you felt secure in this world. And when you were young and you asked for something, what happened? Sometimes your parents said yes, which was great, but other times your parents said no, and they said, we can't afford that. Stop. Won't you ever be satisfied? Stop asking for more. Who do you think you are? Right? Like some version of that, and in various different tones of voices, but they negated your desire. And in doing so, when they did that, they cut off the love. And that flow of love is what allows the child to know that they're going to be secure. So you learn very early not to ask for what you wanted because the love might be cut off and you might lose security. Because again, remember, your parents are the ones through which security comes from. Or if you weren't raised by your parents, if you were raised by your aunt or your grandmother, foster parents, adopted parents, whatever it was, the adults in your life were the ones through which security came. And if that love stopped flowing, you thought you might die. This is how your subconscious mind is built to react. So you stop asking and you get afraid of rejection. But now you're 20, you're 30, you're 40, you're 50, you're 60, and you're no longer dependent on your parents, but you're being run by that program. And it's keeping you from making the sale.
Now, are you starting a new business and you might be concerned about using your personal number? Well, for less than $13 per user, you can get a business line with Flex Plans. This is the all-new business phone plan by Virtual PBX. Flex Plans provides unlimited calling, business texting, video conferencing, all for entrepreneurs that need a way to connect with their customers. And it includes a free soft phone, plus it includes 2 free local toll-free numbers, a virtual receptionist, professional greetings, call forwarding, voicemail, text, and just so much more. So right now you can save 15% by visiting virtualpbx.com/podcast. Now that's less than $13 per user for your business line. So separate your private line from your professional line today by visiting virtualpbx.com/podcast.
And you have to move beyond that. You have to learn how to connect with people and feel comfortable asking for the sale, and not have it make it mean that you were going to be rejected or unloved, or you were going to lose all security and die.
I've never made that connection before, because fear of rejection is a big reason why a lot of people do not make, as you call it, the quantum leap, right? Like, what did it take to go from 138 to 700,000 in 1 year, 5 times ROI? It's not having your subconscious run you with an old program, right, from when you're a child, to, not be able to continue to be afraid of rejection. And that's something that, you hear people say, oh, what's the worst that can happen? That they say no. But to some people, that's like detrimental. And, you'll see memes or TikToks or whatever, where people are like, I'm up at 2:00 in the morning thinking about that conversation that I had, because it truly does, wreck people when they feel like they've been rejected or they, said something incorrectly. So how can people get over that? I mean, we can become aware, right? But our subconscious is 90% of our brain. So when it comes up, we're still going to become, scared of that rejection. So is there something the listeners can do to actively try to overcome that?
So fundamentally, I think there's an internal game and an external game here. So the internal game is you have to want it badly enough. Okay. You have to get leverage over yourself by recognizing and connecting the dots about what you really want in life and making that bigger than your fear of rejection. Okay. So if you would rather not be rejected than make your income goal for this year, you will stay stuck. Okay. So you need to start making it present for yourself about what it means not to ask for the sale, or what it means not to get on a sales call. Okay. So you have to connect those dots and really recognize that the pain of disappointing yourself in not achieving your income goal, or for many people, it's not about the number, the money number. It's about what that gives them. So whether that's putting your kids through college, or moving to a nicer house, or paying off all your debt, or whatever that is that it's going to give you, that's going to be like a hell yeah for you. Like, oh my God, you have to make sure you want that more than your fear of rejection, and that the pain of not achieving that will be bigger than your pain of rejection. So that's the leverage that you need to get over yourself. Now, tactically, you need to learn how to do sales. Okay. It's super important to train on this. And some people are more naturally inclined towards sales and know how to do it, and some people aren't. Those that are more naturally inclined towards sales still benefit from training. I have seen people go from good to great, and it's just made a huge difference in their, income level, their bottom line. And those that resist it, once they get some training on it, and by training, I mean how to have the conversation, what kinds of questions to ask, how do you step out of being salesy and step into being of service in a conversation? What are the keys to really connecting with people? It doesn't have to be manipulation. It can be really just knowing what kinds of questions to ask to have a real conversation with someone and get them to a place where they can make a really great decision for themselves as to whether it's a hell yes or a nope, not for me. And that's the point of a sales conversation, to help the person either step forward or say no, but to make a decision, because that place of indecision is a place of confusion, and that is a painful place for people. So that's what I would start with, at least.
Well, you know what? It connected back to that first step where you said own your value. And it's not just, understanding the value of what you're selling, but of yourself. And when you're setting your goals, and, setting a money goal is like just the surface level, right? But setting a deeper level goal for yourself, or understanding why, what's driving you. Are you wanting to be able to have time freedom to be with your children? Are you wanting to be able to travel the world? I mean, whatever the money connects to is so critical before you go into these sales conversations. And I want to reiterate for the listeners too, is we're all in the business of sales, regardless of what you do for a living. When you interact with another person, you are selling yourself to that person on some level. And so understanding the psychology of sales, because there is a true art around sales, it will help exponentially in various parts of your life, not just in a business and increasing your sales. So I love that you talked about too, don't lead with the product. Essentially, you have to really understand why. You've got to ask them a lot of questions. You have to be of service to your potential client, and then solve to their need, because then they're going to be like, yeah, I want that. You're not going to have to say, hey, you need this. You've already had them self-discover that they're going to want to work with you, or they're going to want that product that you've developed or sold. So I just think that the psychology of sales is critical, and don't count yourself out. You're in sales in any business and any line of business.
100%. I mean, here's the thing. Money comes from spirit, source, the universe, infinite intelligence, right? Whatever you want to call the non-form, through people, through sales. If you are running a business, if you are running a nonprofit, if you need money in any way, you need to understand that you have to get good with people, and you've got to get good with sales. And there's no two ways about it. Sales is the mechanism that moves money from one person to another person. And quite frankly, you should be a person, if you want to make a lot of money, you need to be someone who actually spends money too, because there's an energetic quality to it. Now, you don't have to spend all the money you make. That doesn't make any sense. But money has some attributes to it. There are qualities to it, and it likes to be used. It likes to be in circulation. So one of the things that I do when I teach sales is I help people clean up their relationship with money, because there's so many, I think I'm speaking to the converted here with you, Courtney, but like there's so many money stories underneath what, how we behave in this world. And it messes up that clear, clean, conversation that you can have, so that you're not coming across as saying one thing, but energetically feeling like you're taking from someone, or that you're ripping someone off, or you're manipulating someone. If you have that anxiety inside, that's called a double bind, and it comes from all these money stories. So you gotta get good with money too, right? You have to release through some of those money stories that have been built up over the years.
Very true. And guys, again, that's a great point to make sure that you go back and listen to the first episode with Amira, because we talked a lot about relationships with money, the subconscious, and really like your money script that's built up in your subconscious prior to you even really understanding what money truly is, because this happens in childhood. And then we have to try and undo this a lot and try to figure out what is that money script that we have, and what is our relationship with money that we don't even realize, because it's built into our subconscious. So make sure that you go back and listen to that episode, because we go into that in quite a bit of depth. One thing that I wanted to ask you, Amira, too, is I know a lot of people, they want to make a lot of money, right? They want to focus on their business, but people struggle to really focus, and it can feel like, we're never really getting everything done. And there's always this never-ending to-do list. So I know that you are really big on focus. Can you talk to the listeners about how increasing your focus can actually increase your bottom line? And so let's take just a minute to talk about this episode's sponsor, Hidden Compass. Hidden Compass is pretty cool, guys. It's not your your normal run-of-the-mill travel magazine where they're going to tell you what to go buy or where to take a selfie, but it's more of a place to find courage and curiosity. It's inspired by the farm-to-table movement, and they are making journalism personal. They have forged an alliance to turn storytellers and explorers into heroes and to champion a new age of discovery. So to learn more about Hidden Compass and their mission, take a look at their website. It's hiddencompass.net, and there you'll be able to read more about their award-winning magazine, and they have a podcast, which is easy to find. It's called Hidden Compass, the podcast, and Sabine and Savani, they are the narrators of the stories for their award-winning magazine, and then they go behind the scenes in interviews with each of the storytellers to see what inspired them to venture to the frontiers of courage and curiosity. So make sure to go check out Hidden Compass at hiddencompass.net and go into that a little bit.
100%. It's so important. So there's a number of different ways that we can approach this. One, you need to know what you need to focus on first. Like, what are the needle moving actions in your business? Not my business, not Courtney's business, but the listener's business. If you don't know what those are, then it's going to be really challenging to focus on the right things. Now, there is an 80-20 rule here. You need to spend 80% of your time focusing on the needle moving things. And then there's 20% of the time that you need to just clean up the stuff that's like hanging over you, the little stuff. Okay. And that's totally reasonable, but you have to start learning what the difference is between the two. And this is where I help people with a scale plan and like understanding what they actually need to focus on, step 1, step 2, step 3, right? And so on. So that's super important that you don't try and do all the things all at once. You're going to splay yourself out and get completely overwhelmed. So you need to put things in order. The universe loves order. We live in an ordered universe. And if you are behaving in a disordered way, you are going to make things harder because you're not working with the laws of the universe. You're working counter purposes to the laws. So the first thing that we want to do is get you working in an orderly fashion. That doesn't need to mean without creativity. That doesn't need to mean without joy or fun or freedom or any of that. It just means like we have to put your steps in the right order so that you know what to focus on. And then the second thing that you need to know here is, again, back to inner game, that the things that take you off your game and cause you not to focus on what actually needs to happen, whether that looks like procrastination or looks like you surfing social media instead of doing the big project, or checking email 1,000 times a day instead of doing the big project, or avoiding sales calls, or whatever it is that is keeping you from really scaling. We need to figure out what is the value conflict for you in that. You have a belief about yourself, others, or the world that's keeping you from actually executing. It's saying it's more painful to go forward than to stay where I am right now, and I might as well procrastinate. Okay, so we have to clear those value conflicts up and get you to a place where the thing that you want is aligned with who you know yourself to be and your values and beliefs in this world. So those are sort of like tactical outer game things, and then mindset things. And there's so much more to this, but that's a big part of it. Those two things that I pointed out.
Well, and it seems like that connects directly back, and correct me if I'm wrong, but if it connects back to what we were talking about earlier with owning your value, because if you don't understand your value, then you're going to have some value conflicts or belief about yourself or the world or other people that is going to keep you continuing the procrastination cycle. So instead of the 80-20, 80% on, the needle moving items, you're 80% on the little stuff because you're like, well, I have all this other stuff. And I have totally done this, guys. days. I'm not saying I haven't. Like, I feel like I'm attacking myself right now, where I will focus 80% of my time on the to-do list of, you're adding stuff to it all throughout the day, and it's little stuff. And the three big items continue to be at the top of the list. And it's like, oh, well, once I get this other stuff done, then I'll tackle that, right? Where it really should be the other way around. It's like, I got to get these three items done. But a lot of people find themselves in that perpetual cycle of procrastination. And so it can be, fear. And as you said, the value conflict.
Absolutely. And it's one of the things, like, if you're struggling with this and you're relating to this, know that you're not alone, and know that you can't continue to make an excuse for it or let yourself off the hook. Like, you need compassion for yourself. Like most people struggle with this. Okay. And if you really want to make a quantum leap, like if you really want to go to the next level in your life and your business, you need to work through this, like get to the other side and hold yourself to a higher standard. And that's why when I work with my clients, we have a proprietary accountability system that allows the client to really, once we come up with a plan, self-direct. It gives them enough freedom, but also holds them accountable. And what happens as a result of that is just, I'm always, I get teary-eyed, Courtney. Like, I'm a crier. Like, we get these comments from people, from our clients. And it's like, in the first 90 days of working with us, they start making so much more money and having these breakthroughs. And, I'll write to my team. We have a Skype channel behind the scenes with my team. And I will share with them what the clients are saying to me. And I get teary-eyed. I get like it doesn't get old. Okay. It's just amazing what happens for people when they start showing up for themselves. So,
well, there's nothing wrong with getting teary-eyed. Okay. It just means that you have passion for helping people. There's nothing wrong with that. I have a question about the value conflict again. What do you see with your clients as one of the most common value conflicts that continues to hold them back?
Oh, there's so many different ones. The one that just popped into my head was, like I work, my company is called the Unstoppable Woman. And so my primary client, although there are a few men behind the scenes, 99% of my clients are women, and many women have kids. And they're playing mom too. And there's often a value conflict around, if I build my business, if I put all the time in my business, I'm not going to be a good mom, or I'm going to be letting my family down in some ways. And yet, behind the scenes, they tell me what they really want is to be a role model for their kids and to show their kids that you can do anything that you put your mind to, and that you can really be an extraordinary success in this world. And so on the one hand, they're saying, I can't work on my business because I need to be there all the time, not just some of the time, but all the time for my kids. And if I'm not, I'm a bad mom. And yet they want this result of having an extraordinarily satisfying life, which for, high achieving women, they want to build something. If you're an entrepreneur, you want to build something, and you want to create an amazing business that has impact in this world. And you want to show that's possible to your kids. So that's a huge value conflict right there. And it doesn't have to be either or like that. There is a way to be a freaking awesome mom and really show up and grow your business. So start thinking of it as an and more life, not an either or kind of thing.
Oh my gosh, I love that. And you know what? I got chills. I wish you guys could see right now. Little hairs are standing up, because I have heard that time and time again. And being a mom of three small kids myself, I have my baby just turned 1 this last week, and then I have a 4-year-old and an 8-year-old. So I'm in the thick of that, right? Where, you almost have this perpetual mom guilt, where anytime you're trying to do something that is quote unquote for yourself, but in reality, when you're building a business, is it for yourself, or are you building a legacy to have a more fulfilling life, to be able to be a good role model, to be able to have these intangible attributes for your children that they will exponentially be able to benefit from, right? So, it's this balancing act all the time, right? Where you're like, if I'm not there while they're playing in the backyard, if I'm inside, working on my project, I'm a bad mom. And that's just simply not true. It seems to be a societal pressure that's been kind of built into our culture. And it's so funny because you never hear that for dads, right? You never hear dad guilt, or, it's like, oh, how I made a TikTok about this recently where it's like, the number of questions my husband gets about balancing his career and being a father, none, it's not even a conversation. And so it's just it's a expectation that's built into our culture. And it's hard for moms.
Yeah, I totally get it. And it's true. I think there's some stuff that's coming up for fathers and dads now in terms of like wanting to be at the soccer practice or the basketball practice or whatever, right? But it's not nearly as common as for moms, and certainly not on the daily. And I think that's we want to be the mom, not the dad, but we also want to be.
Let's take a moment to thank this episode's sponsor, Ether Diamonds, the world's first sustainable diamonds and the only diamonds that are actually good for the planet. Ether has created the world's first positive impact diamonds, made from air through a process that removes harmful air pollens, captures the carbon from it, and then retasks that carbon to a higher purpose in their one-of-a-kind diamonds. These are 100% real diamonds with a real impact. In fact, every carat of Ether diamonds offsets your personal carbon footprint for over a year. They're some of the highest quality diamonds you can buy and certified by IGI, the world's largest independent laboratory for testing and grading gemstones and fine jewelry. You're no longer stuck having to choose between mined and regular lab-grown diamonds, both of which are harmful for the environment. Ether offers the only truly sustainable diamonds on the market, requiring no ethical or environmental trade-offs. They're the only guilt-free diamonds available in the world. So to learn more about these revolutionary diamonds from air, visit their website at etherdiamonds.com. That's AETHER diamonds.com, and check them out on social media at etherdiamonds.
Clear with our boundaries and how you go about that. So yeah, it's a big deal. That's a big one.
See, guys, if that's a value conflict of yours, working with Amira sounds like a really, really good idea. So one last question that I really wanted to get into before we wrap up is, you talk a lot about playing small and to stop playing small. What do you mean by that exactly?
Yeah, it's a phrase that I hear a lot from prospective clients, women I just run into, people telling me about their business, that they know that they could be doing more, but they're playing small. And playing small looks different for different people, but generally speaking, it's on the marketing side. It's a visibility issue. They're not actually putting themselves out there and doing what they know they need to do. They're just playing at the level that they've always played at, and they know they need to go bigger and put themselves out there, put themselves in front of bigger opportunities, ask for the opportunity. Like, I don't believe that we live in a random universe where that luck plays a part. It's all about what causes are you putting into action, because that's going to give you the effect that you want. That's the law of cause and effect. So people know intuitively, I am not doing the things I need to do to get to the next level. They know that intuitively, but they can't seem to get out of their own way. So that's what I mean by playing small. You're not living up to the potential that internally you have.
So how can they, because you said playing small seems to be a marketing issue, right? So what are some things that our listeners can do to get out of playing small? Are there some actionable tips you could give them so they can get themselves in front of the right people? Just how do they go about doing that?
Sure. So I think there's different marketing channels, and you have to pick your lane. First of all, you don't have to do everything immediately. You want to pick one or two things, master them, be consistent about them, and then add to your marketing. And as you add to your marketing, you may need to add to your team to help support you in doing that. But initially, you're going to pick one or two channels, whether that's referral marketing or personal outreach or emailing people or social media, whatever it is. You pick your lane. And on social media, that's a huge grouping there. Pick one lane, whether it's TikTok or LinkedIn or Facebook or Twitter, or whatever it is. Pick your lane and figure out what you're going to do that's at the next level for you. And then pick a metric and do it consistently. So what do I mean by metric? I mean, you're going to do this every day, Monday through Friday. You're going to do this 3 times a week. You're going to do this 4 times a day. Right? Pick what you're doing, figure out the frequency, make a commitment that you do not break, come hell or high water, like you don't go to bed at night until you've done it. Okay. And then you do it consistently for 3 or 4 weeks. That's a good amount of time. And then you add to it. Okay. And the thing that you're adding each time is the thing that kind of scares the pants out of you. So like maybe it's doing Facebook Lives, maybe it's doing videos, maybe it's commenting on bigger name influencers in your industry, right? And putting your opinion out there. But whatever you're doing has to be a stretch for you. And that's how you move through your visibility issues. There's an inner game piece to it, but then really you're asking me for the tactical outer game. It's like, come up with your plan, make it simple. Don't do too many things, Courtney. Here's where I see people going off course a lot. You know how when at the beginning of the year and everyone's making New Year's resolutions and you decide, right, you're going to change your diet, you're going to start exercising, you're actually going to do yoga and you're going to run, you're going to start having regular massages and you're going to meditate, right? You just added all these things and it's too much, right? And so you start off for like maybe 3 days, you're feeling great. Maybe it's 3 weeks and then you can't keep up because you haven't integrated, right? So start with one freaking thing and then build on it. I love this expression. I'm going to repeat it to you. I didn't make it up. I don't know who did. Slow is smooth, smooth is fast.
Okay? Oh, I love it.
Yeah. Isn't that good?
You're really good. You should just say you made it up.
Right. But I can't. I can't claim that.
It sounds like that's where your accountability system comes into play too, because again, as you said, there's that inner work that we talked about, like with focus, understanding your value conflicts. Then there's the outer metrics where we go into playing small, understanding visibility, marketing issues, and then coming up with a tactical outward plan. And, a lot of times the best made plans are fantastic, but when we don't act on them and we're not consistent, and as you said, come hell or high water, you're not going to bed until you do it. That's where a lot of people falter. And so accountability is, such a key aspect to really making that quantum leap from 138 to 700, right? It's like the accountability is everything. So I want to thank you for your time coming on again, because I just feel like we could talk for hours and cover the most amazing topics. And I know that the listeners love you. I want to make sure that they go over to your podcast. What's the name of your podcast again?
It's The Unstoppable Woman.
Perfect, guys. The Unstoppable Woman. I'll link it in the show notes. And then where else can they find you online if they had questions about, you or your company?
Absolutely. They can go to the unstoppablewoman.com/free stuff. We have a ton of great resources there for people that are free. You can find a link to the podcast there. You can book a consult if you are so, desirous of learning more about the coaching that we do. You can find out about the summit that we have. There's all sorts of resources there, but primarily there's a ton of free resources there that you can get your hands on that will help you scale. And that's probably the best place for people to find me. So that's theunstoppablewoman.com/free stuff.
So theunstoppablewoman.com/free stuff. Guys, you heard it here. There's a lot of free resources. And I think I said this last time, it's like a broken record, but I want to make sure you do it. When an expert comes on and they have something that they're giving to you that's of value that you don't have to pay for, take them up on it. Make sure that you pause right now it's the accountability, before you do anything else, and click on the link in the show notes, go check it out and see what resources that she has out there that can directly impact your business, because it's time to stop playing small. It's time to be able to be accountable and to be able to make that quantum leap for yourself. And so, Amira, thank you so much again for coming on today. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much for having me, Courtney. I love our conversations. So it was absolutely my pleasure.
Guys, if you're not already, make sure you're following us on Instagram and TikTok. It's the Financially Free Journey. And, I post daily tips, motivation, videos to help you on your way to financial freedom. Until next time.